Steven, so I wore my costume and this thing happened that I thought was funny. Ding, ding, I just got a text. I thought it was funny, and so did my text person. Well, I'm going to tell you all about it when we start the show.
So there I was, Steven, sitting on my friend's doorstep in Philly on a street where thousands of kids are going by because that street just gets so many people to trick or treat. And I'm in my Globo Gym outfit, and there is a woman wearing an average Joe outfit, texting on her phone. I threw candy at her and said, "Dodge."
It's a meet cute.
I hit her with the candy, and she didn't get it.
With the wrench.
I was like, you're wearing an average Joe, and I have to explain to you that I just threw something and you didn't dodge it? She didn't dodge it.
There really was a girl wearing that?
Yeah.
Was it a whole team or just her?
No, it was a mother. It wasn't a little kid. I don't throw candy at little kids. But the mother was standing there texting, not paying attention, and I hit her with candy. I like throwing candy at random adults going by, but I'm like, here, dodge. But I don't throw it at them hard. I throw it so they can catch it.
Was she like, why are you throwing candy at me?
At the beginning,
you, weirdo?
I had to explain. I was like, I shouldn't have to explain it if you're going to wear the outfit, woman.
Yeah. Especially when you look at yourself and you got the Globo Gym outfit on.
I look just like Ben Stiller.
Just like him at the end of the movie.
Know. Yes, at the end of the movie. That's what I aspire to be one day, Steven. Aspire to be.
Are they rumored to be doing a second one?
I certainly hope not.
I thought they said that was in the works or something, but I could be totally wrong.
I don't know why they would bother. It's just like Happy Gilmore. Why are we doing another Happy Gilmore? Oh, that's right. They're paying Adam Sandler a shit ton of $100 million probably to make the movie.
I guarantee it's going to be terrible.
And I don't blame him.
Most of the Netflix stuff that Adam Sandler has done has not been great. He's been phoning it in. It's a paycheck.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him for that, for the paycheck. But this is where Ben Stiller, Ben Folds, Ben Queller, Ben Affleck. This is where Ben Affleck came out a couple years ago and was like, Netflix movies are shit. And the reason they're shit is they make 10 movies at $10 million a piece versus an actual movie that they spend $100 million on, or that Ben Affleck would spend $100 million on, and develop the script and develop the story and develop everything, instead of just, you know what, we're going for C plus, B minus quality. Because usually Netflix movies, they're like good for a minute, and then you get to the end and you're like, that's it?
I mean, there's definitely some that are great, but yeah, it's rare. It's a needle in the haystack for sure. But I do agree with what he said. I mean, he took, what was that movie? The Jordan Shoot, Air, right?
Yeah, Air.
Him and Matt Damon, they did that for Prime, but that was a more expensive movie to produce. And I thought that was something that I would have watched in theaters.
It was a good movie. I there's very little I want to watch in theaters.
I'm just saying I probably would have, that felt like a movie that I would be paying money for to watch. Speaking of movies, I actually just watched Twisters. They said it's a remake of Twister, but I thought it was...
You mean Twister?
Twister, yeah. Didn't I say that?
You said Twisters.
Twisters is the new movie. See, I thought initially it was supposed to be a sequel, but then everyone was saying it was going to be a remake of Twister, the original Bill Paxton movie. So I didn't really care to see it, but it was on sale this past weekend, so I checked it out, and it was definitely like a sequel, more like a standalone sequel. It doesn't have any of the same characters, and the storyline is somewhat similar. Obviously, it's generally about chasing tornadoes. But I thought it was all right, you know.
I never watched Twister, the first one. I will not watch Twister, the second one. I did play Twister, the pinball machine, which had a big spinning wheel in the middle, which caused the ball to go all over the place.
You've never seen Twister?
No, it looked stupid to begin with as a kid.
That's a classic movie.
Looked stupid. Looked like fake shit. So I never watched it.
In 1996, I thought it looked very, very real.
You were 12.
Yes.
No, you weren't. You were
Actually,
like
I was like 8.
You were probably 8.
Anyway.
Speaking of movies, I finally did finish the movie Civil War a while back.
Yeah.
Did you ever watch it?
I did. It was all right.
So from a photojournalistic standpoint, there's some, if anybody's seen this, I don't know if it's spoilers. The movie's on HBO now. It's available if you have it. I rented it and then never watched it on the airplane. It took me like 4 sittings to watch it. That tells you what type of movie it was. Do you know, like if I get bored after 15 minutes, I'm like, fuck this. This is stupid.
You're probably like, why can't I watch it in 2X? What the hell?
So most of the movie is not that good.
I agree.
It's like,
now that felt like more like a phoned in Netflix movie, to be honest. I just think it got a lot of hype, and I don't think it lived up to it.
oh, it got a lot of hype because of the state of the country, but
of course,
it just, from a photojournalistic standpoint, I love the aspect of the still image freeze frames that happen because I love imagery, and that part was cool. The weird part is the one girl goes around with a
shooting film
camera, and in the low light situations at night, there's no way her pictures are turning out the way that they are turning out. Regardless, what's her name? Who plays the main character? The woman?
Kirsten Dunst, right?
Kirsten Dunst. She plays such a dull, lame attempt at being a, hard ass photojournalist that it just comes across as just like
fake.
What?
Yeah.
Right? Like it was just like bombs go off and she's just like, this is par for the course.
You need like a Sarah Connor type role for that.
A working photojournalist.
Some badass. Yeah.
There's plenty of them in photography, especially the ones that covered the one that covered January 6th during that thing and got her camera stolen and broken, and she was in the thick of it, and there were a lot of people out there that were doing that. But the movie ends interestingly. I just felt like it was like, I don't know how many parts. They get to where they're going, some shit happens, the movie ends, and you're like, cool. But the pictures at the end, you're like, yeah, I could see that being historic, but then it leaves so many unanswered questions.
Agreed.
It's just not that good of a movie. But I bring this up because my cousin was in, the one who does my projectors, and my screen is old at this point. It's over 10 years old. So it's still good. Everything's still good. And the Sony projector I have is good. I reached out to Sony to ask about a 4K laser projector because now they have laser projectors.
Sweet.
They only start at $5,000. Not exactly that expensive in the grand scheme of things.
Need the best of the best.
That's not the best of the best. They offer an $80,000
why
home
would you
projector.
Get it? Why would you do that? Buy something that's at least $30,000. You peasant.
Well, it's $5,000 and it goes up to $15,000 after that. I'm going to see if Sony will want to do a trade. Like, hey, I'll do a review of your Sony projector on my website. Will you please let me borrow it for 3 years?
How big is your projector? Like 110 inches or something?
161 inches is what my screen is.
But aren't you supposed to view that from like 50 feet away?
No, Steven, I'm 15 feet away.
I know.
If that.
You're like the front row of a movie theater.
Not really. It's much more enjoyable. And I have a bathroom. And there's a popcorn machine.
Ooh.
And I have a cat. And the cat will sit there with you and keep you warm.
It's been a minute since I've had some of that popcorn.
I haven't made that popcorn. My dad was over the other day and he's just like, is this popcorn still edible? I'm like, from 3 years ago, go for it. He always does it. It's like a broken record. Dad, you've been here 43 times and I still haven't cleaned out the machine since I moved. So that's 4 years, but I've only made popcorn like 3 times since I've been there. Maybe for my birthday party a couple years ago. Actually, that's probably what it's from, is at least 2 years ago during my birthday. And that's almost 3 years ago at this point.
Wow.
So that's whatever.
Gross.
Yeah, he and I went the other day to the art museum, and then we did dinner, and we watched some of the Eagles, but we went to the art museum and went to the 3rd floor in the Philadelphia Museum of Art, which is the floor that is usually most people don't go to. So if you go on a Tuesday, it is empty up there. There's the medieval stuff. There's just stuff that's not the main exhibit.
I saw you guys went during the game. I was surprised. Isn't your dad like a huge sports fanatic? He was decked out in all his Eagles gear too.
I don't even want to. He can't watch a game. He doesn't know how to chill during a game. Like, everything is the biggest deal in the world, and he can't just sit there and watch a game without saying stuff and getting all worked up about bullshit. So he's not capable of watching it. Don't ask me. Don't even ask me. It's just not even. I don't get it. Let's okay. RAWtalk 126. We got stuff to talk about. There's a story about junior high school kids making AI nudes of their classmates. There's a reason I want to bring that up because it brings up something from my junior high school days. I got an update for book 2. Steven wants to talk about the Viltrox lens, which I actually have here, the 135 1.8 Viltrox lens. We're going to talk about user guides because we put out the user guide for the R5 Mark II, but then we're going to take a walk down memory lane to talk about the origins of user guides.
Oh.
Some updates of shooting with the 70-200 2.8Z, the RF, and the EF. We've got Nikon Z50 II discussion as well. There's a lot of stuff. We'll probably not get to everything because that's usually what happens is we talk about stupid stuff.
I was going to say, I usually have to cut out this part sometimes because you say all this stuff we're going to talk about and we don't talk about half of it.
Oh, well. But anyway, let's talk about this article. Petapixel hits you with the hard-hitting articles all the time, and if it mentions photography or not, they still do it. But this one says, police investigate middle school boys who allegedly used AI to make nudes of classmates. Now, this is such an not an interesting, but a gray area for everything. Because is it real or is it not real? It's AI, and it's not much different than in the 1950s, someone cutting a photo out of a girl and pasting it on top of a poster.
It looks much more realistic, I'm sure.
Of course it does. I remember this stuff from way back in the day. They'd be like, this is, I don't even remember. I don't even remember who they were doing, but there was like, this is this famous woman in this porn. And you're like, I guess it looks like her, but it's not. And that was before deep fake stuff. And it was just awkward.
It was only a matter of time. I mean, the scary part is that, this is with 12-year-old minors.
Yes, this is bad.
Yeah.
It's bad that it exists, but then they start going down the rabbit hole of, well, this isn't just the 2 kids that made it. It's everybody that they sent it to who then sent it to someone else. It's like, look, this is it's not a felon, in my opinion. It's not a felony. It's made up. It's terrible. Can we go after the AI? Can we go after the companies that are allowing AI to create nude images in the first place?
I just thought that most of the companies were not allowing for that. You couldn't prompt, make a naked person out of this person's image, whatever.
And feed in feed in someone's head
in a face,
and put it on someone.
Yeah, I thought most of the AI software did not allow that, but apparently not.
Does it even say what software they used?
It's probably best that it doesn't, but I don't believe it does.
I think it says I think we're up to 10 or 11 victims right now that this is happening to. This is just, it's not good. Obviously, it's not good for kids to do this, but again, kids do this shit. It's no different. I mean, yes, it's different than what they would have done back in the day without the technology, but they would have pasted their faces onto other things and then shared it around and then gotten suspended from school, and that's what would have happened. My junior high school story is, do you have something to add to that, Stephen?
I just remember in middle school, kids did dumb shit. Let's just say that.
Like what? Like what,
I
Steven?
remember there were like hot or not websites, and they would make lists of all the girls in the school and the grade. You could vote who was the hottest in the grade, and obviously, that's degrading to most of the girls in the school if you're not top 3.
But you don't get it at that age.
No.
And you learn from that, and then you realize you were stupid as hell because you're not developed, and it's just like,
they think it's funny, yeah.
well, you think it's funny because you're young and you're dumb, and we've all been there. And I just, this trying to police everything when you're a kid and try to make you out to be an adult. It's like, well, you don't remember that you're not fully developed, and this is how you learn what's right and wrong, and you need to educate people when they do dumb shit. Junior high school, floppy disk era.
Floppy what?
This is not CD drive era. This is floppy disk.
Oh, disk. Okay.
What do you think I said? Floppy dick era? Junior high school. Couple of stories here. I remember kids getting in trouble for selling floppy disks with porn on it. I didn't get involved. I think I was asked to be involved, but for some reason I was like, no. I didn't get involved, and they got caught. They got caught doing it. One, I don't care. I think that's pretty fine because it's not like it's, passing around students' images like this.
It's not a sex tape of a student or something like that, yeah.
No, which is worse today because people have cell phones and they share that stuff. And
I can't imagine how many nude images go around the high school these days. You know, kids are dumb.
yeah, kids do that stuff. I remember these kids getting in trouble for this, and I don't know why I wasn't involved with it because I had my computer and all, but I just wasn't. They were doing the floppy disk thing, and they got probably suspended at the time, which I don't know. I mean, it was early. You weren't on AOL back in the day, but the way that you would go into a chat room and you would see who had pictures to trade, and then they would send you the picture. It would take like 8 minutes to download into your feed, and you'd be like, oh yeah, this girl's hot. This girl's hot.
And then your mom picks up the phone. You're like, Mom.
Well, wait. This gets better. You're downloading the picture. It's coming in from top to bottom. You're like, okay. Oh, there's some boobs. She's hot. There's a dick. It was a she-mail at the time, and you're like, I mean, I guess. I mean, it's half. It's okay.
I mean, just, cover up the bottom. Use your imagination.
It was so bad back in the day what you had to do for that stuff. It's just so much easier today. The other story is my dad had the subscription to Playboy since like the 70s and just forever. And I know I've told this story before, but for anybody that hasn't heard it before, there was this, we shared lockers with people in your homeroom. So it was this one other kid and me. I'll save his name. I won't say it. But we were talking one day, and I had all these Playboys at my house. They were my dad's, right? But they're underneath the computer. The computer table. Do you know the old school one that was like the whole wall unit, and then the computer would sit on it? It was that. But underneath the desk were all these stacks for years.
Great articles.
Well. They did have great articles, but he was like, if you could get me the Pamela Anderson one and this one, I'll buy them from you. So I'm like, all right, $15 a magazine. So I put these two Playboys into a manila envelope. I always thought they were vanilla envelopes. I didn't know they were called manila envelopes. I thought they were vanilla envelopes. I didn't know why, but whatever. I put them in there. They're in my backpack. My friend is at the locker. I'm about to take it out of the backpack to put in the bottom of the locker where he's going to take it later. And the principal walks by. Of course, I feel like I've done something wrong, but they're in a vanilla envelope. How would he know? So I didn't know, but I left it there. He gave me $31 bills. He gave me all his lunch money from saving up. He just gave me all his lunch money. And so I was an entrepreneur. No, I was an entrepreneur, right? Like he wanted the Playboys. I was like, I have said Playboys. They're $15 a piece. Let's make some money. And that's the story of that.
Jared Playboy Polin.
Yeah, the moral of the story here is this is obviously pretty bad that students are doing this. I just don't know what the proper course of action is.
It's going to be impossible to police.
Exactly. And then to like ruin kids' lives for doing this stuff as minors, I just put the onus on the AI software.
Yeah.
Do not allow it. Just like in Silicon Valley, remember the food recognition program? Yeah. This is a piece of pizza. This is a hot dog.
Hot dog. This is also a hot dog. Or no, not a hot dog, right?
Right. He didn't want to invest in Jin Yang's company because he thought it was stupid. And then all of a sudden it gets purchased and it can find dick pics and block them. It was great. Well, if it could find a hot dog, well, then it could certainly find a dick.
So good.
Quick update on book 2. If you haven't checked out the Kickstarter for that, it's bit.ly/frobook2. It's my 22 years of music photography. We did hit the goal since last week. We are at $57,227 with 414 backers and 43 days to go. All of the early bird, the 250 early bird specials for the extra pack are sold out, but you can still get a pack along with your book when you make that purchase, and that is still $80. It's the same price as the other. You just get one less pack of the cards.
Has anyone bought the Day in the Life with Jared Polin option for $10,000?
No one's bought the $10,000 option yet, Stephen, but
Still
we do have
left.
someone.
Still 3 left.
There's still 3 left. Yes, there were 3 to start. There's still 3. And Kenny Daniel, a guy who came to the boot camp, bought 10 books.
Wow.
So that's the only person to buy multiple books that way. And I mean, I'm happy with where it is. I know that there's 43 days left. The reason that it's so long is I'm going away in the middle, and I wanted to give myself 10 days at the end to promote it. So I believe it ends on December 20th. So it gives you time to decide to make the purchase. But also, I'm going to be releasing other stories and other I'll at some point when I design the all access pass that might show up, because there's a stretch all access pass. There's going to be 2 all access passes as of now. If we hit my personal goal of 80,000, I'm going to put another all access pass in there. And if we do hit 100,000, there's going to be a 4th all access pass that might show up. So that gives people more opportunity in those packs of cards to find random cool stuff. I was also thinking, I've got these 8x10 prints that are proofs that I'll be sending over to the printer to use as color proofs. When they send them back, I'll have all those prints. I might just randomly put those prints inside of books.
Sure.
Ooh.
I mean, all the stuff we use in the promotional video, I would just give away. You know, a lot of the prints on the floor, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Not the original photo passes, though. Those things should be archived forever. I can't believe, like I said before, they're such great condition.
Yeah, what do you want me to do? You put all the lanyards on them. Do you want to take...
When I'm in next, I'll definitely take them all apart and take all of my old lanyards and stuff.
Well, the other thing, being that this is book 2, some people didn't even know I had book 1. And the first book is the Bernie photo book, where I spent, 6-7 days out with Bernie. You were there for the first 48 hours, made the documentary. I flipped open that book recently because people wanted to buy it. And I'm just like, this is damn good photography. Like,
best of the best.
Damn good. Yeah, damn good photography. All shot with a Sony A7R4 that was brand new. And then an A9 II came out for the last event.
I don't recall. Was the A7R4 publicly announced yet, or did you have it early?
No. Okay, so it was announced, but because remember we did that event in New York City where it rained and there was that photographer who yelled at the model.
Oh, yes.
So that was an A7R4 event right there. But we had to give the cameras back. 2 days before we left, Sony was able to get me the A7 IV. Because remember, leading up to this whole thing, it was, do I take a Z7 Nikon, which I was so hesitant about because its quality of it was just such, it just couldn't keep up with the autofocus, as we knew. And then the A7R4 showed up 2 days before, and I took it. And I also took the original A9. And up until 15-20 minutes before Bernie showed up, I hadn't decided on which body was going to be my main body. And I took 2 pictures of you, or in the room in Iowa, and realized that I believe that the ISO capability of the A9 and the ISO capability of the A7R4, even though it's 61 megapixels, 3 times as much basically as the other one, I was like, they look about the same in ISO. I'm going with the more megapixel one.
It was literally up until he walked into the room that you were debating which camera to go with.
Steven, guys, if you haven't seen that, if you haven't seen the documentary part of this, understand it's a political figure, and I've said this before, but it's not about politics. Go to BerniePhotobook.com, watch it. It's tremendous. Steven shot that all with a Nikon Z6, by the way.
Well, speaking of that, do you remember that I had a gimbal with me? I think it was like the DJI Ronin, and I was going to use that to shoot the entire doc.
Oh, right.
I tested it out. Everything was great. We show up. One of the batteries died.
Yep.
It was one of those proprietary weird batteries, so I couldn't just simply go somewhere to buy it. I had to order it online, and obviously I was only there for 48 hours, barely. So I had to hand hold and shoot the entire doc with no gimbal and rely on the stabilization. So Warp Stabilizer was my best friend during the edit of that doc, but that was really tough. And I remember thinking, like, I'm not going to be able to film this now. I'm going to be running around with zero stabilization. It worked out in the end, thankfully, but it was tough.
Yeah. Check it out. If you want to pick up the first book, I do have them still available at BerniePhotobook.com. I believe it's $79.99 and it's free shipping. That book weighs 6 pounds. That book is 227 pages or something. It's a fantastically well printed book. It's gorgeous. So anyway, you want to check that out. People asked, what is book 1? That is book 1. Move on. Let's go to the Viltrox lens. You want to talk about the Viltrox lens, Steven?
Just quickly, I've never personally held it or seen it yet with my own eyes. Oh, you did get it in.
I did get it, and I'm holding up the box that they sent me. What happened is, back in September, Viltrox reached out. Actually, they reached out in August and said, we have this new lens coming. Would you like to check it out? And I was like, sure. And then on September 25th, they sent me an email. I flew on September 25th to St. Louis and missed their email, where they were trying to just say, do you still want it? And they should have sent it out, but doesn't matter. I have it now. They put it in a purple box that says, I shoot RAW and Frono's photo.
I love that they made it purple. So wait, is the lens purple? I saw Gerald Undone had like a purple ring around his lens. I'm curious if they did that with yours too.
Yeah, there were a lot of people that dropped videos at launch of this. I don't care about hitting launch if I do this lens at all.
Well, I do think it's a lens that would have been nice to hit launch, but it's not going to break record views or anything like that.
No, but I do want to say good on Viltrox for creating these custom versions. I know that there was a website out there who was against the fact that they made a custom one and felt that would have made them, what's the word? Bias or something. Because I know Gerald Undone mentioned something like, I probably get to keep this lens, but that doesn't change my review. It's the same thing for us. Like, we're not swayed by this bullshit. It doesn't sway us to say something. Like, there's no journalistic integrity that says, oh, they sent you the lens. No, I'll just tell you, they sent us the lens. Do we get to keep it? Probably. Does that change how I think anything about it? No.
The sad part is that it will probably sit on the shelf and collect dust just because you're more of a Canon shooter and we shoot primarily most of our videos on Canon. So we'll be using the Canon 135-1.8 instead of the Viltrox.
Which I don't even use that often, by the way, the Canon 135. I use the 85-1.2 more often.
I think the 85 is more of a...
It's a nicer image.
Yeah, and just focal length-wise, you need a lot of room for the 135 unless you're taking like a super tight headshot or something.
Basketball would be good, but then again, a 100-300. But then again, it's much lighter than that. I'm opening this box.
Okay.
By the way, this is heavy. It feels heavy.
Well, so speaking of that is one of the only issues with the lens. Apparently, it is almost 50% heavier than the Sony G Master.
Oh.
It is obviously a much...
I just did a sniff test.
It's a much bigger lens, a much chodier lens, but I don't know. That doesn't really sway me personally. Like, I'm not going to not buy a lens because it's slightly heavier. Now, maybe if it was like a travel lens and I was going to be around, wearing around my neck all day, different story. But for this is more of a portrait lens. You're going to use it for a few. Oh, it is purple.
Just one ring is purple.
Wow. Dude, imagine if your entire Canon kit was decked out with like a purple ring.
You hear that, Canon? I want a purple 70-200 2.8. None of this white or black bullshit. Oh, I saw someone bring up a good point about the black or white. Are you going to come out with a black teleconverter? Because if you get a black lens and put a white teleconverter on it. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
That is a good point. More about the Viltrox, though, is slightly louder as well versus the G Master. The Sonys are just incredibly quiet. I mean, they're basically silent for the most part. Now, the other issue is you're limited to 15 frames per second with that lens because it's not a native Sony lens. So if you're shooting with an A9 III basketball at 120 frames per second, you're going to miss a lot of those shots.
But the price is, for whatever reason, on sale as a pre-order for $789 or something.
So it's $764, which is an odd number, but they say it's a 15% Black Friday pre-order special. It's normally going to be $900, and that's why I want to talk about this lens, because the G Master is $2,100, less than half the price of the G Master, and it pretty much holds up spec for spec. I mean, it's got the fast linear motors like the XD motors in the G Master. Body-wise, it's got the custom function buttons, the declickable aperture ring. There's no markings on the aperture ring, so it actually uses that little digital screen, kind of like the Nikon S lenses.
And it has a click and declick on there.
Yeah, a declick aperture ring, like I said. 11 bladed aperture, 82 millimeter filter thread. I mean, for the most part, it is the same as the G Master minus the weight, and it's slightly louder, and it's limited in frame rate.
It's much heavier. I'm going to have to put it on a lens and see how it works. If I had to guess, and my guess is going to be, it's going to be more than good enough for the general people wanting to buy a 135-1.8. I just feel that. Personally, I'd buy the Sony G Master. I'd buy the top of the line personally as a working pro. But by working pro, I mean someone who makes a living off of making YouTube videos about photography at this point. But I think that for the majority of the people, for under $800, this is going to be an option. I just have to try it out. I watched Undun's video. Undun's video was very positive, probably because they gave him a purple lens. He was just being biased and stuff. That's a joke. I did text Undun. I'm like, hey, Undun, you forgot to check something in your review. Like, where did you test the frames per second for stills? He's like, oh, shit, I forgot.
He usually focuses on video, although there was a lot of photo-centric review points.
It was all photos. It was a lot of photos there.
In that specific video.
Yeah.
Also, the 15 frames per second doesn't really bother me. I think most people using this 135 are not shooting like a basketball game. They're taking portraits for the most part, probably full body or something like that, or shooting weddings or whatever it may be. You're not really going to need anything higher than that.
Yeah.
I'm looking up the weight now, and the G Master is 2.1 pounds, where the Viltrox is 2.7. So a little more than half a pound heavier.
That's not bad.
No.
It's still heavy though. It's still a heavy lens. But
It's a
anyway,
big lens, yeah.
we just wanted to point out that they said they had it wrapped up months ago. I don't know why they never followed up with me to be like, hey, we didn't hear back from you. Do you still want this? But we have it now, and I will most likely never use it.
Again, the main reason I wanted to bring this up was the price, but I will say there's also another similarly priced lens on the market right now, third-party wise, and that's the Samyang 135-1.8. That's also for the E-mount, but that's $760 on sale and normally $800. So if you're looking for a 135, I mean, you have some great options, and that's why Sony's a great brand to go with, because you have these great third-party options. I mean, Viltrox is really starting to make a name for themselves as a high-end third-party brand.
Yeah. Oh, they also make cinema glass too, so I think they have a good feel for what they're doing. This isn't 20 years ago shitty, Tamron and Sigma 20 years ago that would literally fall apart. They've upped their game, and now these other companies are coming along quicker because it's much easier to ramp this up and produce stuff. Let's move on to the user guides.
Yes.
We put out the user guide for the Canon R5 Mark II, which got me thinking about what was the first user guide that we put out. Before I get to that, if you don't know user guides, many people have found us via our user guides. When a new camera comes out, give us a couple of weeks or months, we generally put out how would I set up this camera? It's basically a user's manual showing you how I would personally set it up, explain the most important features and menu options, because most people do not read the manual today anyway, or even if you do, it's still confusing. So I become your manual and give you like this hour and a half type video, if not more, that helps you understand the ins and outs, the cursory stuff, the top level stuff. You can always go deeper, but that's what they are.
And I know on occasion we'll get comments like, you blew right through that certain menu item, or you didn't explain it. You just said, I don't turn this on. But you got to understand, if we literally explained every single little feature in the camera, it'd be a 5-hour video. It would be never ending. So like you said, we go over the top level stuff, and I think it is incredibly informative, especially for someone, for more of a novice beginner. And I also want to bring up the point that people are always like, why put out a user guide for a $4,000 camera? People shouldn't need this. You would be very surprised at the questions we get about flagship level cameras like R3. Like, how do I set up the R3? How do you do this? What's this setting? Trust me, people do not know how to use these cameras, even if they're $5,000-$6,000. It's pretty insane.
That is correct. So the first one I put together was the on December 25th, which is Christmas of 2010, and Jewish Jared sitting there in his bedroom in a very small yellow Nikon shirt, because I used to coordinate. Well, we still do sort of, but it was my Nikon yellow shirt that I would wear.
Extra small.
It was a small back then. And
it looks like it's literally choking you.
I was just so massive back then. But it's called the Nikon D3100 Guide, Basic Photography Tips. Because it looks like I also put out a Nikon D3100 setup video, which is... So the first one, it was a two-parter. The first one from December 25th is me going through the basic guide and me talking about the camera. There's no B-roll. There's nothing that shows how, like, the menu settings. It's me talking about the buttons for I think it's a 15-minute video, right? Which meant that I had to hit the record button like 4 times because I only got 5 minutes with my D3S at the time. Then the next setup was the D3100 setup. And that's a 15-minute video. Did you look at this video today, Steven?
Which one, the guide or the setup one?
The setup, Nikon D31 setup, 3100 setup.
I am looking at it now.
Fast forward to a place where you can see the menu.
I see it.
Do you see anything odd about that, Steven?
What are you're filming like a TV screen or something?
I'm filming the TV screen. I didn't have any other way in 2000 and beginning of 2011, right? December, whatever, January of 2011, to get video out. It wasn't like you could go right into a computer and record a screen. It wasn't like there was a easy device. Like, I'm sure you could have purchased a device with a composite input that would have allowed you to record to a tape and then copy that digitally to a computer somehow, ingest it. It just didn't exist. So here I used the phono plug to plug into the TV, but I had to do it in 2 steps. The first part of making this video is me sitting in the chair, talking and going through the menu and filming myself doing so. The second part was having the audio play back on my iMac while I filmed the TV screen and mimicked what I was talking about. So I was then going through the menu as I was talking about it in the recorded video. So it's like a 2-track video, right? Like it was what musicians would do with 4 tracks. They would do the first track, then listen back and layer the second. I was literally making tracks. So I filmed a Sony flat screen Vega TV in my brother's bedroom with it and then put it picture in picture on the right-hand side. And it's 15 minutes and 54 seconds.
And now the last one we put out is what, hour 45?
Yeah.
Insane.
So this has 661,000 views. The first one has 679,000 views. Then the most viewed user guide is the Nikon D3200 user guide, which I would have put out in 2013 in my new loft, or 2012? Yeah, 2012. It has 1.3 million views. And I looked today, the last comment was 6 days ago.
Wow.
Someone commented, why didn't I see this video 12 years ago? I've had this camera since 2012. I only got to understand it after watching this video. Now I will use it every day.
So just for 12 years, they didn't know how to use a camera?
Yeah, and then there was one 8 days ago. Fro, you're the man. I really appreciate your clear, concise lessons. You're a true pro. I got my D3200 many years ago and tinkered with it for a little while, but got frustrated learning to shoot manual. I am determined to learn now. Thanks for helping me on my journey.
So this one is also filmed with a TV screen, correct? HDMI out to a screen, and then you film that.
Steven, I'm trying to think of how I did that because it's not the same TV screen. Now, what is, oh, I hit play and I hear it. What is possible is, did I film my projector on the wall? Like, I don't know how I did this.
My guess is you filmed the video, explained all the buttons and the menu, and then you went back, listened to the playback, and followed along and recorded your TV screen with what you're doing, because it doesn't line up with what you're doing with the camera.
No, that's definitely how I would have done it, but I don't have a TV screen. I had a wall, a projection wall. Is it possible that I projected this on the wall and recorded the projection?
Could be.
That might have been what I did. I waited till night and did it at night. I have no idea. But the moral of the story is that these are the videos that bring in the most people to our channel, because they discover me through these videos and then become a subscriber and then pay attention to all the other content, get on the email list, and all of that good stuff. I looked back at all these old videos, and I mean, there's some of them that have 70, 80, 120, 200,000. They're 10, 11, 12 years ago. But the user guide videos have hundreds of thousands of views, and they're free. I don't charge people for these because it's the long game. We're going to make more money off of this stuff in the long run, but rather than try to charge people I could charge people $10. It would be amazing if I charged people $10 for this video. Like you give them like 20 minutes free and then click here to unlock $10, give me $10. If you could do that directly on YouTube, which YouTube is working on working on this shit, but YouTube wants to take a hell of a lot for like 30%. They want to take like 30% fee.
I think it benefits us much more to release them as free videos, free guides, and then gain new subscribers that way, the organic approach, because over time, like we said, it will gain hundreds of thousands of views. I'm looking right now on the back end, like the R6 Mark II guide that we put out last year has 305,000 views. The R5 original user guide has 300,000 views. The R6 original guide has almost 400,000. It takes a while, takes a year or two to get up there, but over time, I mean, you're hitting almost 500,000 views.
But you know what's interesting? You could also tell how many people own a specific camera by how many views this thing gets.
Yes.
Like the Nikon Z7 user's guide only has 104,000 views.
Yeah, the Z7 one never popped for us.
No, but the Nikon D3500 user guide, which came out after that video, has 602,000 views.
And then you look at the A7 III, has almost 800,000 views.
They sold a lot of those.
The D5600, 1.1 million. That was in 2017 when we did that video.
My first video to pass 1 million was the D3200 video. I'm curious though. It's like, imagine if you put out a 30-minute version where you go through the basic section and then you're like, to view more, give me $10. Imagine, you probably would sell a lot of those. Probably would.
But yeah, like I said, it takes some time to get those views because the ones we just put out a few months ago, like the A7CR and the A7C II, are only at about 50,000 views. Now, granted, the first week, they barely had 5,000 views. So clearly people are finding them via search. It just takes some time.
Well, this is
total long gameplay.
Exactly. And that's the rub with YouTube, is YouTube's goal is to get you to get videos that get the most views quickly because they can sell the most ads and get the most revenue generated. But you can't forget as a creator about the long-term evergreen content that people come back to. There's a long game approach. We've got videos, and we've said it a million times, like Photo News Fix is meant to last a week and then it's dead. That just is what it is. User guides are meant to last years, 10 years. I mean, people are still watching that user guide from 12, 13 years ago.
It's the same thing with the comparison videos. Typically they get, 30, 40,000 views the first week or so. And then over time they'll have hundreds of thousands of views, if not millions. So they also are definitely evergreen content.
And I think the reason I wanted to bring this up partly is back in the day, there was nothing like this on YouTube. I was one of the only people putting out in 2011, 2012, well, actually 2010, that first one, how to set up these cameras. It just was common sense to me that people just needed help how to set these cameras up. Did I do a good job all the time? No, but it was better than what existed because nothing existed. We evolved. Or if something existed, it was a magic lantern guide that you had to buy and read.
The only issue was that it was only Nikon cameras because that's typically what you personally owned. Now we try to pretty much do all of them, at least the big three, Sony, Nikon, Canon. We still have to do like Z6 III though. We got a couple more that we need to catch up on. I think Z6 III is a huge one we have to do.
I don't know.
Do you remember, by the way, the first time we got the original Atomos Ninja recorder, like 2013 it had to be, maybe 14?
No.
And we realized we could actually record via HDMI to the signal. And
I think that was probably a revelation.
This changes everything. This changes how we can do user guides. And from that day forward, we now try and do like picture-in-picture or show the actual menu as you're scrolling through it. It makes the recording process much easier, the editing process easier, and just for you, it makes it overall easier to film.
It's insane. It's just insane looking at these numbers. You're like, why can't I get those numbers all the time?
But these videos, they take forever. Me and you dread filming these because it could be 3-4 hours of just sitting there in one spot going through the entire camera. And now there's so many menu items and so many things to explain. I mean, they're usually 2 hours.
Yeah.
Final video,
they do
2
take
hours.
A while. They do take a while. So anyway, that's just a walk down memory lane about those things, and we'll continue to make those because that's the rub is you've got the educational stuff, and I look back at some of the old tutorials and tips, and some of those videos, even from 15 years ago, still get views. Not a lot now, but they climbed over the years because people found, ISO, shutter speed, right? Basics that I was doing. Anyway, let's move on. I've been using the 70-200 2.8Z the white version, white power, white version, and I shot squash. I shot a kid in a park. I shot. What else did I shoot? I know I shot basketball. Was there? Oh, I shot dogs this weekend. Last weekend, I shot dogs. Took a hike, and there were 2 dogs that from the people I was with, and I took some dog photos.
And look at you using some of the more creative presets.
Well, I had to because
Hey,
it worked
I'm
on
all
the
about
one dog.
I'm just surprised
It
you didn't
worked
slap
on the one dog.
Skittles or Kaleidoscope or some kind of normal color, preset.
It didn't look good. It didn't look good. It looked better with this one dog, the Bernese Mountain Dog or whatever it is, or it was an Australian,
Shepherd.
whatever the hell the Australian Shepherd dog. That it looked good with burnt sienna. No, what was it called?
Coppertone.
Copper tone extra bronzer looked good on that dog. It didn't look good on the black dog. My friend's black dog, it just didn't, because black just sucked everything up.
Yep.
And it was just void. It just didn't look good, but it looked really good with that preset. So this isn't going to be the full review part of it, because I want you guys to watch the video when we do come out with a longer review. But when I went and shot squash, I shot with the 70-200Z new one, white power, the RF version, the twisty one, and I took out an EF 70-200 version 3 to see how they would act. And I shot them all in the same spot, same situation, same settings, same camera, R1, same lighting. And when I was going through to edit the images, I didn't know which lens was which. I knew that I would, shoot this lens, and this lens. But when I was going through the keeper images, there were keeper images from all 3 lenses.
Sure.
And so it's not like one stood out from just looking at my editing, or from looking at it. It's not like one stood out drastically and was like, oh, this is drastically better. But it comes down to usability. The 70-200 version 3, you need an adapter. It's heavier. It is it's a heavier lens. It's still fantastic. It works extremely well on your adapted Canon RF bodies. So that's an option. You can get those lenses for not that expensive compared to the RF version. The RF twisty turny is still a good lens when it comes to quality and focus speed. It's just the twisty turny it causes you to miss I said it since day one.
Yep.
It causes you to get the wrong composition, because you have to change. Your hand can't stay stable. Your right hand doesn't stay stable on the camera. As your left hand is trying to twist, you have to grip it a certain way. The new 70-200 2.8Z is amazing. I just find myself, I actually find that it's so easy to move that sometimes you're over zooming or over pulling back.
You're just
because
using
you can
your thumb, and that's it, right?
Just using my thumb.
Yeah.
While a guy is coming down the court in basketball, I'm literally sitting there tracking him the whole way without even worrying. Or if I want to go from 70 to 200 in one fell swoop, boom, I'm all the way out there. It's just tremendous.
But yeah, with the original RF version, the twisty turny one, like you're literally, like you said, changing your composition as you're actively zooming in or out, because just the nature of the throw. It's such a long throw.
The biggest question is going to be, if you own that 70-200, is it a problem, or you just bought it? And the answer to that is absolutely not. It's a great lens.
Just like almost every lens on the market now, you're not going to see a major difference unless you're pixel peeping. Now, vignetting, yeah, you'll probably notice differences instantly when you look at lenses, but with the software correction and everything these days, there's not much of a difference between a lens that's a few years old versus, a brand new lens.
And the edge-to-edge sharpness, but these are things that I didn't even notice when shooting. I was able to get great images with all 3.
Well, like you said, it comes down to usability in the end.
Usability,
I mean,
100%.
That's what it comes down to, especially with this style of lens. Now, do you prefer the compactness of the original 70-200 RF, or you don't really care for that?
For travel, for fitting in a bag, for fitting in my fanny pack, 100%. I love the fact that it's smaller. But when you pick that lens up, even though that lens is, I think, lighter than the new one, it feels heavier. It feels more awkward. It's not balanced at all properly. Whereas the new 70-200 spreads the balance out perfectly, right? Spreads the weight out. The balance feels great in the hands. It feels lighter, and it just is so smooth and gorgeous that for the most part, it doesn't matter that it doesn't collapse. right? Yes, it takes up more space in my bag. I'm probably not taking a 24 to 105 and a 70 to 200 with me at this point because they both take up a shit ton of space because they're the same exact size. But the 70 to 200 is gorgeous. It is a beautiful, beautiful lens. And for usability for pros, it's a no-brainer. Sell your other one. Go buy this. That's for pros who rely on the ability, say, at a football game on the sideline to be able to quickly go from 70 to 200 and keep their framing. And that's what I have to say about that, Stephen.
I will say real quick, I know you're comparing the EF version as well. That is only $2,100 brand new versus $3,000 for the RF version. So granted, you have to buy an adapter. So let's say $2,200.
The EF is how much?
It is $2,100, so $900 less for a brand new EF 70 to 200 version.
Yeah,
3.
but how much is the twisty turny one?
The twisty turny is $2,500 on sale right now. But I'd rather buy the new one over the twisty turny just because that's only a couple $100 difference. But you're looking at $900 difference versus the EF version 3.
Now let's get to the Nikon Z50 to wrap this up. The Z50 II came out. We got our hands on it. We shot it. Steven, what do you got to say about it?
Well, it's been 5 years since we played with the original one. So 2019 was when the original one came out. The unfortunate part is that this one has the same exact sensor as the original Z50, which had the same exact sensor as the D500 and the D7500 from 9 years ago. So we're looking at fairly old tech at this point. Granted, it's still a great sensor, not downplaying that. But the electronic readout speed is still fairly slow. At this point, I think they should have refreshed the sensor, especially because it's been 5 years. Now, if it was only 2 years later, totally fine. I'm used to Sony reusing the same sensors body to body for 2 generations, and then they use a brand new sensor after that. I just think the tech has come a long way, and I'm sure they could have made it much better. But Mini Z6 III body for the most part. I like how Nikon has similar button layouts. Now you can pick up a Z50 Mark II and then a Z6 Mark III, and they essentially are the same camera, you know, in terms of the button layout. This one has a new picture control button. They're trying to go after Fuji's film simulations. How did you feel about that?
It's stupid, Stephen.
I do like that it's a quick toggle, and you can remove the ones you don't like. So if you just want to keep your top 3 or add in your own image recipes that they're calling them.
Look at me. I'm a Xennial. I like this button. I'm Generation Alpha. I want to put a filter on everything.
I think they're trying very hard to really kickstart this image recipe thing with the imaging cloud, and I don't think really any Nikon users are using it. I'm sure there's a few, but I don't think it's there yet.
No.
Now, again, I do like the picture control option. This is a Nikon first, so it was nice seeing that. This one also now has a vari-angle touchscreen. I know you prefer the tiltable one. This is more video-centric, in my opinion. I'm kind of hit or miss with that. I don't know. There's times with stills I like tilting, but there's also times with video that I prefer vari-angle.
What you got to remember is it's not a pro camera. It's not meant for pro shooting, though you can get good results with it. The images are fine, right? The quality's fine. It's fast shooting at its 11 frames per second.
Well, the original Z50 was also 11 frames per second mechanical.
I like that camera a lot.
This one does do C15 and C30, so it has the extra high electronic shutter frame rates. However, if you're thinking about shooting wildlife or sports or any fast action, know that there will be considerable rolling shutter. It is a much slower readout. It's just like the Canon R10. It has a fast frame rate and electronic shutter, but it's almost unusable. Now, I didn't test the buffer out either. I'm curious how long you can shoot in C30 for.
A while, because it's JPEG normal, so you just keep shooting.
Oh, see, the Canon R10, you can still do RAW.
Yeah,
in the
that's
23 frames per second. I forgot it's JPEG normal, yeah.
Yes, it's JPEG normal in 1530 and pre-shooting for Nikon. So that's, to me, a problem. But most people are going to shoot shitty JPEG anyway because they don't know what they're doing until they watch my user guide for that. Did we do one? I hope not. No, I don't think we did.
For Z50? We did user guide.
No, the Z50 II.
No, of course we didn't.
What's the Z50 have? How many does that have?
Let me check.
Oh, yeah. Of course we didn't for the Z50. We didn't.
We just got it.
Pre-production. I know.
The Z50 has 270,000 views from 4 years ago.
Yeah, that's pretty low in the grand scheme of things when it comes to consumer cameras. Because even just comparing it to Nikon's D30-some-100 cameras and D50-600 cameras, those got a shit ton of views. back in the day.
Now, this one also fixed a lot of things that the original Z50 didn't have. Like, it now has a headphone output. It now has USB-C charging. However, it still does not have IBIS, and I think a lot of Nikon fans are not a huge fan of that particular spec. No digital hot shoe still, which I'm surprised. For some reason, Nikon just is not going down that route at all.
But it has a tally light.
It does have a tally light. It has all the video features like the high-res zoom, waveforms, like all this N-Log. It shoots 4K 60 now, but it does have a 1.5x crop on top of the, obviously, DX crop from a DX sensor. And it has the X-Speed 7 processor. That's probably the biggest thing. It's a first in an APS-C camera from Nikon. So it now has all the subject detection modes, 9 of them. It does have a dedicated Bird AF mode, which the Z6 III doesn't have, but the Z8 and Z9 have. A little surprised about that. And it has the pre-release capture and all of that, but JPEG only, as we've always said. But it is a nice feature to have.
Let's talk about the autofocus, because that's where I want to test these cameras.
Sure.
The autofocus is better than the Z50, which makes it better than the ZFC because it's updated with the X-Speed 7 processor. Now, just because you have an X-Speed 7 processor that's in a Z6 III, a Z8, and a Z9 doesn't mean you're getting the same power of autofocus, because you're not. The autofocus is not as good as the Z6 III. The autofocus is not even close to a Z8 and Z9. It's good. It's better than the Z50. It tracks subjects coming at you well. It tracks subjects where you see their face really well. It does find the eyes. The problem is when you get a profile shot of someone, or they go behind a subject, or you're at the jungle gym and there's a rope in the way, but their face should be able to be seen because it can be seen with other less expensive cameras from other companies, and it can't find it, or it goes into that green box mode. Just look at our video. I'm showing you real world examples of it while I'm trying to shoot. You see the green boxes come up. If it can't find two eyes or a face, it goes to the multiple box option, which isn't great. But as soon as the face turns, though, it does pick it up better than what the Z50 would have done.
And we pretty much showed, by the way, almost every EVF clip that you shot, because you photographed the kid in the park, the Ren Fair, Pizzeria Bedia, and what was the other one you did? Typewriter. Now, you didn't have the EVF recorded on at all times, but for the most part, we showed the good, the bad, everything in between. And I think it did really well certain times, and I think it did really bad certain times. But, It all depends what you shoot. Take a look and make your purchasing decision off that.
So what I want to say is, when I was looking up information about this when it went live, the night after, Nikon Rumors had a quote, and I was like, where'd they get this quote? Because it wasn't in the US press release. It so happens that in the Tokyo press release, it says this: adoption of the same X-Speed 7 image processing engine used by our flagship camera, the Nikon Z9, realizes subject detection and superior AF performance on par with that of the Z9. That is so wrong. That is not even close. And I sent a message to our Nikon USA people, and he's like, they went with feature set and we went with something else. I'm like, yeah, it's not even close. You probably didn't say it in the US because you knew it wasn't true.
Yeah.
There is no way I'm telling you, there is no way. It's not. It doesn't compete with the focus of the Z9. The Z9's focus is capable. It's still not great.
Well, and just the stacked structure of the sensor, you're going to get a much faster autofocus out of that.
It's a different sensor. It's different technology. You are not getting AF performance on par with the Z9. That is a stupid statement that is false. I don't know where they come up with that or why they would say that, because it's easily disputable in a matter of seconds.
Now, the price of this camera, I still think comes in a little high for what it offers, but I guess it is pretty much on par with the competition. It's $909 for the body only. I think the Canon R10 is $879 on sale right now, and the closest Sony would probably be the A6400 at around $800-ish bucks, but the A6600 sells for about $1,000, so $100 more. However, that camera packs a lot more of a punch, in my opinion.
Oh, it does. That's autofocus on par with a Z9.
You might be thinking of the A6700. That's the latest Sony APS-C body. Okay. That's more their flagship APS-C. And speaking of that, where is the D500 successor for the Z line at this point?
I still don't think there should be one.
there's still that void to fill because you jump from this camera that's $900 to $2,500 for the Z6 III. Well, no, you do have the Z5, I guess, in the middle.
Did they come out with a Z5 II?
I assume that's next. That is my guess. Now, the Z5 was pretty stacked for what it offered, especially at that price point.
No IBIS, but that was still a good camera.
Was still a good camera. Speaking of the competition, the R10 is very similar. It pretty much has a lot of the same specs. However, that is from Canon. They say it's a new 24 megapixel sensor in that camera, not a reused one from back in the day. I think the R50 and the R100 use the older 24 megapixel sensors, if I recall. But that also doesn't have IBIS. That doesn't have a mic jack. There's no log recording in that camera. However, it does have a joystick. It does shoot RAW at the electronic shutter, 23 frames per second. Everything else is pretty much on par. It does 4K 60. It has a vari-angle touchscreen, EVF, 1080 120, and it's about the same price. So I do think Nikon, for the most part, caught up. Oh, and it does have a digital hot shoot too, that Nikon doesn't have. But I do think they caught up for the most part to this camera, the R10. But at the end of the day, I do think Nikon fans are a little disappointed that, again, same old 9-year-old sensor at this point and the lack of IBIS. In my opinion, they were the two things that most people wanted, and I'm surprised that Nikon did not give them that. Waiting 5 years at this point.
We'll see what happens in the next couple of years with them, but that's really going to be it for this week. That was a lot of stuff we talked about. If you want to get book 2, which I would like you to back if you haven't done so already, go to bit.ly/FroBook2. The process is already underway. We've hit our goal. Printing should happen hopefully by the end of November. Get it packed, get it bound, get it on a boat, get it over here, hopefully before tariffs kick in, and then I don't have to raise prices or ask people for more money because I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't think anybody knows what's going to happen there. But hopefully we get this stuff before any of that happens, so it doesn't affect shipping or pricing on this.
By the way, looking at book 1, the Bernie book, we already surpassed that goal. I think we raised 54 grand for that particular book, and you're at what, 57 now already for book 2?
Yep. And also the revenue that Kickstarter shows includes the shipping costs, which is still stupid that they reflect that counts towards the goal, but it is what it is. So they're literally taking a percentage of your shipping too.
Wow.
Kickstarter. My shipping. They're that's a tariff on me. They're taking percentage on percentage. Whatever. I like using the software. I like using the platform. I think it definitely helps generate buzz and interest with the rewards, and it's the cost of doing business in some situations, and you need to price accordingly. So that be that, Steven. Anything you want to add to the end of episode 126?
Just check out the Z50 II real world preview that we did. I think it's a pretty cool video and really fully explains what that camera offers. And while you're at it, if you have an R5 Mark II or are thinking about getting it, check out that R5 Mark II user guide because we spend way too much time making those videos.
We do's. All right, guys. Thank you very much for listening. Jared Polin, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya.
Bye.